Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. No, actually, you're right. We shouldn't use any of the lights.
Look,
everything should be lamps, and everything is.
That would be really.
You're right. It creates the atmosphere, isn't it, of a crisis. Yeah.
And also to justify the dark. We don't even need to do.
We don't.
We're in the dark, but it's not like we want to be in the dark.
Yeah.
This is what.
Yeah. It could be called definitely symphony. But it has to be symphony if it's that long. Do you do much stuff with neural parasites? Like the things you're finding out about, like this toxoplasmosis thing, this cat parasite that humans have in it. 40% of humans have this parasite in their brain. You'd have to be sleeping there. So in a way that gives...
I'm going to look pretty rough.
Yeah. So it's in a way that gives everybody, it gives a reason for the bed to be there as well. And it gives...
That will give me somewhere to sleep.
Yes.
A lamp, camping lamp and stuff.
Okay. A kind of vigil, isn't it? It's a siege. That's what it is. It's a neuro siege.
Cerebellium can become the incarnation, the representation of what actually is happening for every one of us, for every one of the individuals, because we are prisoners of our own envelope, and our brain is prisoner of our skull, and we are prisoner of this reality, which is whatever we make up of it.
Urgency.
Yeah.
For Kevin to know before he switched off. It's the same way as, our urgency for us to know before we cop it and have to get reborn to learn it again or whatever.
Urgency to know.
It's the extreme, isn't it?
We want to make Kevin understand that he's the brain of that, and he doesn't believe us. Why don't you realize that actually reality is not what it seems? Finding our way, that we have all these illusions in there, and making them really sort of legitimate. Why have we got them here? Because they are the access route to making Kevin understand that it's just a brain of that. Because for him, reality is reality. Why would he doubt it? It's like, this is what it is. And for you too, you're sitting here in this chair, and you think that life, that whatever is around you is there. But look, we can make this move around you. We can make people disappear. And why don't you realize that this means that we can change the state of your brain like this? And if we can change yours, we can change Kevin's.
I see it like a complete kind of commune gone crazy. But no, I imagine it, being kind of anarchic behind the barricades, on the edge of falling apart. And outside there's this kind of, so there's three sections. There's outside there's a street protest. Inside there's this complete order, control, police involved, and then beyond the barricade is chaos and urgency, and then they come out again into complete order.
It sounds like crystal, like jewels falling. And it would be like the peak would be reached probably towards the end.
That was a key thing, is that they see your pictures and they see you playing, and then they get this sense of how rich consciousness can be if you can play the piano like that.
It's fantastic. We're telling Kevin now, and he doesn't believe. And so what is fantastic is all three know that there's something really interesting about it. It's that all three options given in Cerebellium 1 are actually being enacted. We're trying to tell him.
He doesn't want to know.
He refuses to believe, and the next wants to terminate him. So it's basically, rather than having a choice, it's gone seriously pear-shaped. The National Ethics Committee is trying to terminate it, and the people inside the Cerebellium are trying to tell Kevin. And so they have like all parties are represented.
Don't tell Kevin. He won't talk to me. He doesn't talk to me anymore. He just plays his piano all day.
A vigil?
Vigil, yeah.
They have candles, and they've got signs, and they're preciously looking after a generator that basically keeps the whole building on. And Shazam, disappear! Why do you need total darkness?
Because it's even stronger. All this kind of like everything false about our society, all these magazines about houses and material things, you know.
I can't believe you got a ticket.
Everybody take photos of themselves and bring photos of themselves in because they're part of Kevin's, you know, relationship. So it's like a mind map of Kevin's relationships, or whatever, that we need to keep in our mind to remember who we are in his world. We should, when people come out, we should deconstruct every sense, take away their faith in their sight, come all the way to the point where they look at themselves and they realize it's a work of fiction.
My name's Karina, and I was the agent outside bringing people into the building, and also the dancers in some nights in the dark.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I was at the very start. For the first half of it, I did the person welcoming people into the tent and joining in with the discussions that Dan sort of initiated. I was sort of more or less pretending to be a member of the public. So we were trying to get some controversy going between the people waiting. And for the second half, I did the ethics committee, which involved taking people out of the tent and telling them that they needed to pay very close attention to everything they saw and heard, and then sending them up the stairs to meet the next people.
How do you do? My name is Nurse Amanda. Occasionally I was Dr. Evans when I swapped roles with my colleague, who's not here, and between us we were interviewing the members of the public who were, I can't even remember what they were, I'm so tired. They were potentially going to be, what's the word? Oh my God. What were they? Witnesses. They were witnesses. And they needed to fill out a form, and then their form needed to be thoroughly checked. And then if it was approved, which I'm glad to say it always was approved, they then went forth to the next stage of Cerebellium 2.
My name is Kevin, and I played the brain in event. I essentially played the piano for about 4 or 5 hours per night while people had experiences learning about me and my environment and life, and ultimately deciding what happened to me.
I'm Xanthi, and I was one of the 3 Marias in the scientist room. But the room was set up, and we were kind of organised so that you only saw one of us at a time. There was 3 of us, sort of dressed similarly, but we were 3 different people. So the idea was that they would only see one of us kind of at a time. They'd assume, because they're focusing really on the scientist and what's going on, that they would only really assume there's the one assistant. And then at the end, kind of, it became apparent that there were 3. But because there was only one present at a time, the idea was that they didn't notice, which worked for pretty much all of everybody, I think, almost, yeah. It's good fun.
I'm Annabelle. I was the dancer in the labyrinth, and the way I see my role is as a bit of a random sort of twist within the dream that the participants were sent into. I embraced participants as they came to me. They didn't know I was there, and they were a little bit scared. So I embraced them.
My name's Kat. I was Dr. Bone. I was basically the kind of initiator of the start of Cerebellium after they go in and fill out the survey. So I was a doctor. I was on the evil side, and I was the one who made them take their shoes off and was like, "You have to do this, you have to do that, quickly, come on, let's go." I kind of initiated the whole thing, I think. I think that's what I did.
My name's May Schultz, and my role was to read out Plato's Cave in the Shadow Room.
So my name is Will. I was a doctor in the Cerebellium lab, and I was basically just sort of washing my hands as people were getting shown around. But I would kind of stop them and sort of, warn them about the situation they're going to go into, and maybe sort of give them some of my views to try and sort of steer their ideas, and maybe give them a little shock on the way by washing their hands and drying them without them even knowing that it was going to come. Yeah, and then I'd abruptly leave them.
My name is Iwan, and through Cerebellium 2, my role was actually to be the technical person, and people were coming through and sitting in front of a mirror, and I was changing the light, and from seeing themselves in the mirror, they started seeing Kevin behind the mirror.
My name is Emma, and my role included, first of all, receiving people at the end of the labyrinth, and then I was an assistant in the lab with object K, and I asked people to turn Kevin off.
I am Yasmin Brioc, and I played one of the assistant doctors telling people to switch the button.
My name's Terry, and I was taking the rabbit out of magician's books without people realising, although we don't tell them that because it's magic. And then I was taking them out of the box, or encouraging them to come out of the box, and just sort of guiding them in the dark into the tunnel.
Hello, I'm Michael Addison, and I was the illusionist, or the magician, in the Cerebellium.
What is your name, and what was your role in Cerebellium?
My name is Iwan Brioc, and I was co-directing Cerebellium with Guillaume Thierry, Professor Guillaume Thierry. This second year as well as the first year.
I'm Guillaume Thierry. I played the role of Professor Coates in Cerebellium this year.
I joined the project this year because I enjoyed it last year, as it was the first year it was launched, and I said, why not?
I joined this year mainly because of the illusions, because whilst the round email was going out, we were being taught about different bits of the brain, and it was interesting. It was they were all Guillaume's lectures, and he was showing you how the mind can be fooled and things. And I think actually he gave us a slide version of some of the illusions upstairs. So yeah, that's because I was absolutely fascinated by them. And that's actually why I wanted to join here, because I want to actually get to work with some of these illusions and maybe watch people go through them.
Because I definitely wanted to be involved, because it was just such an amazing experience last year. And I wanted to be a part of that.
I think what made me join the project is that I didn't really know much about it last year. I just had the chance to go through it because Guillaume let me come through and experience this, and when I went through I just thought, yes, I don't know how I didn't take part in this, and if it's happening again there's no way I'm not taking part in it, and that's just what I decided. And then when I saw the email saying that it was happening again, I thought, yeah, well, I'm doing it, it just, as I said, it's just such a unique experience, and it gives you a perspective on the world which isn't something you would normally have on an everyday basis. It really takes sort of a building up and then to actually question everything that's around you. But Cerebellium works really well for that, so I wanted to make people feel that way.
I originally joined because I was quite interested in looking forward to why people do things, even though they know it's not real. They still can't quite do it. So like for instance, like you'd have a lot of people getting really upset over like pressing the button, even though they knew it was just an act and they weren't going to kill anyone, but they felt really guilty. So that's quite interesting to see that.
It sounded really interesting. I went to the taster session. Well, I think it was the second one because it was on the weekend. So I went to the second one there. I think there's a really friendly atmosphere about it. I was really annoyed the fact that I missed the first year's performance.
Because I felt like it. Sometimes I do things because I feel like it, and if I feel like it and I didn't do it, then I may regret it, so...
Part of it was wanting to know more. We had this email come around, kind of initially fishing for people to get involved, and it was kind of more really wanting to know more. And then we had the weekend workshop. It was so it was really engaging, but it was such an experience. And I could tell the people were really kind of genuine and fun, and yeah, and I thought, and it just was nice to be a part of something.
Because I had so much fun last year. It's just so powerful as theatre, and just once you go into the labyrinth, you don't want to come back out again.
Yeah, I joined this year because I had so much fun last year, and I just really wanted to see how the project would evolve and progress from last year. And I just thought, that everyone did an amazing job, and the storyline was a lot better. And yeah, I mean, hopefully I'll be able to join next year as well and get to see Cerebellum tree. That would be perfect.
I, like everyone, am a big fan of Guillaume. I think he has a crazy mind. And I do a lot of acting, so I knew that this was theatre, immersive theatre. I love immersive theatre. I love bringing other people in and doing stuff like that. I love the whole concept, and to have someone so renowned like Guillaume and then have someone so great in theatre like Iwan is cool. Combine them. What have you got? You got Cerebellium. That's awesome.
I was invited to join by Guillaume. I think he appreciated my music, and we originally met speaking about music psychology and things, and he got me involved in the project, I think 2 or 3 months after it had initially started with workshops and things. And I'm glad he got me involved. Refocus.
Refocus. Oh, why? Oh, why? I couldn't not. I had so much work to do. It nearly killed me. I got home at 1 o'clock in the morning most mornings. Sometimes I drove through blizzards, but it was worth it. Why? 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 I don't know. How can you not? It was fabulous, because it's just fabulous, and it's part of me and I'm part of it, and it's an inseparableness to my middle age. Less than exciting and fulfilled life.
I can edit that bit out if you like.
Oh, why? No, just, whilst I crack up and I'm reduced to a wreck in front of the camera, just let people enjoy it.
Hang on, I'll zoom in.
Hang on, let me do it again. Is that any good? Yeah, sorry.
Perfect.
I think the best reaction was someone actually stopping, looking me straight in the eye and laughing their head off. Other than that, it was sort of mainly nodding, smiling, a lot of because I was actually kind of introducing people. I had to spiel at them for almost 5 minutes. So that's, yeah, it was mainly a lot of acknowledgement, to be honest.
The most interesting reactions, as I told before, it was like people seeing themselves and having feelings and seeing Kevin and laugh or crying or, you know, these mixed feelings.
It was completely different every single time. It never was identical, which was quite amazing. And we had some that went very much changed, who came in incredibly cocky, not interested in it at all, you know, just thought it was going to be silly. And by the time they left the tent, their attitude had completely changed. Other people we had came in and took it deadly serious from the first moment, and literally as soon as they sat down they had suspended their belief, which was fantastic. I think it really helped that Dan was such a fantastic actor and he really managed to pick out on people. My favourite moment was definitely with Faye. We would always pick one person that we would leave to the end, either because they were very into it so they would get a better experience, or that we thought they needed a bit more time to get into it than some of the others. And on this particular occasion, Faye had been left till last, and Dan had a little spiel that he would say that, like, there's a reason we kept you till last, because you're special. I bet you didn't know that you were special. And most people would sort of kind of, no, I didn't know I was special. And Faye just turned around and she went, oh no, I've always known I'm special. And it was really, really hard at that point not to laugh, because it was just totally brilliant the way she said it.
I'd say that one of the most interesting reactions I had as part of the end of the labyrinth was when I grabbed one person's hand. I realised the man who I grabbed out of the labyrinth said, oh, thank you very much, because my line just beforehand is, oh, I've been waiting for you. And I say it in sort of a way that makes him feel relieved. And then when he came out, he felt like I really helped him or something. And then I felt a little bit evil then, because now I know that I'm bringing him in here to ask him to switch the brain off. And when I saw him in front of the door, but just before I came in, he was stood there and he was quite a big man, and it felt quite strange to see such a big man who was so scared and so relieved that I grabbed him out of the labyrinth. And I'd say maybe another great reaction that I saw, well, a great reaction, more like a funny reaction, was actually Sam, who swore at us and wasn't really happy with the idea of us asking her to turn the brain off, and she thought we were joking. I think that was quite a surprise, because that was one of the most eccentric reactions we had in terms of, you know, completely refusing to turn the brain off.
I quite enjoyed the deep fear in their eyes, occasionally. But best of all, the ones that sat there with amusement dancing just behind their eyes, who played along beautifully. And it was very interesting. Sometimes they didn't dare take their eyes off us, so we did this kind of double act. And they didn't even dare look at the jars. And they're still, yeah, jars of dead things, and some of them would go like that and try to look. Some of them said, nice bone you've got there. And then my colleague, whatever persona he had at that time, would launch into the fact that I think it was an elephant bone. He even knew which one. I don't know. I don't even know if he was making that up. We did talk a lot of crap between us.
there's a much more range of reactions inside the labyrinth when you're dancing with them, rather than just bringing it in when they're freezing cold and just wants to get in and start the show. So I think the best reaction is it started off with Martin, where she's just crawling around. She touched Martin's foot and she's like, ah! Ah! And it's so funny because it's so high pitched. And she's scared as well, but it's still funny. And when she got to me, despite Martin warning her, there's someone on the other side, she's also again. and with her, I started to find out that what I do really does calm them down, because the slow breathing thing, just deep breaths, and then the hug, and then the dance, and then afterwards she's really calm and she's just walking off. So that was nice, because I find out that's what I'm doing isn't random or stupid. It actually is a great part of the show.
The best participant was just the ones that were really involved and the ones that seemed to really like my voice, so I was really touched. And they just sort of really listened and nodded along, and they also really interacted with the shadow. I liked seeing when when they interacted well with the shadow. That was good for me as well. Kind of the weirdest one was, I think he was maybe a theater student, or he had done theater before, and basically when I was finished, he was just like, oh yeah, I've read out Plato's Cave 3 times on stage, and I was just like, oh my god, okay, you've probably done it 20 times better than me. So that was kind of embarrassing, but he didn't say that I was bad or anything, so that was nice of him.
I actually had some of the funniest times I had when I was using the box, because there was a few people well, magic doesn't impress me. Those things are nothing. So I was like, okay, well, get in the box then. And so I'd be like, oh yeah, do a start at a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and start moving it down. And there's quite a few people, especially grown men, who started screaming at the top of their lungs. Yes, that was a win right there. Especially this one guy who said, well, obviously your magic's not that impressive. As I used to have a sound effect, which was covered with a keyboard. But I'd usually just press the space bar and have crowd cheering or crowd booing. And this one time it's well, let's have them boo at me. Great Alonzo does not like your audience, so I'd have a little bit of banter about that. And then the guy was like, well, obviously you're a pretty terrible magician. So I started says, the guy in the box is I'll show you. This is the last light you'll ever see again. Lights go off, and then just start pushing him. It's amazing.
The funniest reaction was when Guillaume sort of stepped in, because a guy was struggling whether to press the button or not, and then he pressed the button and Guillaume walked in and he looked very serious. I had to run behind my friend because I was going to laugh and it would have ruined it.
It was quite nice to see how reluctant some people were to come out of the box, and there was one particular gentleman who said, have I disappeared yet? So there was a few people who were not quite sure what had happened with the illusions. Some people who'd been quite bravado about thinking they understood what had happened with the rabbits, when it came to themselves, they weren't too sure what had just happened to them. It was just nice to see how people reacted at having to sort of walk alone in the dark, really.
Some people came out and they didn't say a word. I had to come out, they came out to me and I was still in character. And then after, they didn't say a word, they sometimes ignored me, or they would be thinking. And those are the best ones, because that had an impact. If people just walk out like they walked out of a theatre or walked out of a show, that it's kind of just they were there, just oh, okay, cool. The best reactions for me are the people who walk out and they are clearly still in the rooms.
I think it was the way that the Labyrinth, the production ended, was very moving, and to feel moving and very confusing at the same time for people, because of they felt very emotional, some people. but also confused about feeling emotional about something that they knew didn't exist.
I played the piano in front of a two-way mirror, and I think most of the people who went through kind of got that illusion to work, where our faces would blend into effectively one face. And it was just very nice to see how people reacted, smiling as that happened. And I would often smile back at them if they smiled.
Within the role I was in, it was just shocking people, I guess. You know, just sort of looking at them feel completely at ease. They're just washing their hands. They're completely fine. You know, they're a little bit on edge, but not so much. And then just sort of diving in and sort of having that, not that power, but that sort of ability just to sort of stop them.
I mean, I think some of the best reactions were when we really surprised people and they would almost physically leap out of their skin or jump around and were really surprised. So that was nice to know that we'd kind of been effective and that they were very surprised to hear the 3 assistants.
But it was amazing seeing them as they went in, and then again as they came out, and
Yeah, did you see
so
them?
changed. Some of them, not all of them, but some of the ones where you'd see them change completely. You know, and it's amazing to think that you can do that to somebody.
The time when I brought the person in the room to when I brought them out of the room, they were not in the same state, because when I took them out of the room, they were kind of reassured. They were like, "Oh, I've gone through all of this, but thank you for taking me out."
Yeah.
And then I'm like, "Hang on a minute, I'm only bringing you to worse now."
Yeah.
And then they come out like, "Oh my gosh, what's coming next?" There was also someone who, when he turned the machine off, he actually asked if he could turn it back on, and then he seemed quite upset. And he was actually touching the machine like this. He was going sort of like, he stood there for, I don't know, a good 3 minutes just standing in front of the machine. And he didn't really say anything. He just, I can't even remember if he answered when we asked him how he felt. But it was clear that it didn't feel right after he switched it off. And Guillaume will probably tell you best, but he actually ended up crying after that. So, it just proves how powerful the effect was.
I did hear some pretty good reactions from yours though. I heard like a load of giggling. That was so funny.
People getting a chance to circle round and read the poem about kindness to other people, that seemed to get really strong reactions from people.
I would call by the names, and they would be virtually every time have a shock and go like, "You know my name?" But of course I know your name. This idea of breaking before their eyes the object of theatre, going through the decor, the mask, all the illusion, and talking about reality as being theatre. That was very interesting, and I think people got the message. Most people were deeply touched and I think moved by this idea.
And didn't we get an email as well from like?
Oh, yeah,
you got an email which says like, you know, change one that made them feel
Yeah, that was quite good to sort of think it had helped somebody.
It's like it cures depression. Like,
Yay.
The worst reaction was sort of someone's sort of feeling really uncomfortable and sort of was. I think actually they actually went downstairs and didn't do it afterwards. But yeah, someone was sort of, they were looking sort of really quite uncomfortable. That wasn't nice, because I had to sort of keep going and try and maintain the facade of neutrality or whatever. I had to sort of professional or fake professional air and things. I had to try and maintain that whilst they weren't looking very happy, which was that was not easy.
Just the stony kind of no reaction. No matter how hard we tried.
The worst reactions were probably more when people didn't really kind of let themselves go into it. So there was a few who were maybe kind of guarded and were kind of not wanting to be caught out. And there was a few, and I wonder whether the people who had that kind of mindset or attitude towards it maybe were surprised and they didn't want to show it, so that's possible. We found the women were probably much more free in expressing their surprise. I think some of the guys were maybe a bit more kind of proud and not wanting to show it.
When they don't really want to dance, it's just like, okay, should I just still try to keep the 5 minutes, or should I just let the ego because you don't really want to be here dancing? But I still try to like make them dance for a while. I was like, yeah, I need to keep this timing going. So
I think there were a few scary moments. Well, one moment that was a bit, I'd say unsettling for all three of us, so with Ali and Yasmin, is that we had two people on the same day, one after the other, that came in and that said that they'd refused to turn the brain off, and then they started talking about their own personal experiences with a relative dying, and then we thought, you know, we all looked at each other thinking this is a bit much to answer. We couldn't answer in a theatrical way too much anymore. We kind of had to answer more in a human way.
There was one person who didn't go through the whole place. I don't really know why. She got to like just past, I think it was Ludgar's room, and I think she just saw it was dark and that she would be blindfolded, and I think that kind of freaked her out. I think she just expected to kind of see a show, and that was sad for her because she would have probably really enjoyed it.
There was this girl who just she didn't care about anything. She obviously kind of wasn't involved in it at all, and she was, I think, like a high school student or something. She was like just chewing gum throughout, and she just didn't care about anything. She wasn't listening to me at all, so I was just like really annoyed, and I just like dragged her in because I also bring them into like the mirror room where they see Kevin, and I just couldn't be bothered because you need to like adjust the seats so that they're in line and things, but I just didn't care. So I think like half her face ended up being cut off on the video, but yeah, she deserved it.
There's a poem in it. People read a poem, and the person who introduced the poem to me came through. So she was reading the poem to me, and it was quite moving for me, but I don't think she felt the same thing.
I brought out my little rabbit friend Frederick, who became like a starring role in this procedure. I'd mentioned him, he's like, you know, my dear friend, and this and that, but he's not a rabbit in a hat, he just appears in a box. Like that, from this one here. Now, as the days grew on, our relationship here going more sinister. So it starts with, he's my dear loyal friend, oh, here and this and that. And it's like, oh, you know, Frederick, he's suffering from myxomatosis, we need to send him to the bunny farm. And he's going to disappear forever, you'll never see him again, and neither shall I. And a few women were like, what? I want to see Frederick, I hope he's okay. I was like, yeah, sure, okay. He's only got myxomatosis after all.
The best moment in Cerebellium this year was when someone burst into tears in my arms after being in the room where they were faced with the decision or the order to press the button and terminate the experiment, as we call it. And she refused to do it and held strong. I could see she was moved. But then, when I mentioned the fact that I was proud of her, that she had decided to resist this authority and decided to show her compassion for Kevin, the person, seeing beyond the brain and beyond the theater and beyond the story, really, seeing the philosophical problem that Cerebellium poses. And then she became a waterfall. She just, like tears just literally poured out of her eyes. And it wasn't a sad moment. It was just a profoundly emotional moment. I felt overwhelmed, and I wanted to give her some support and show my compassion in return somehow. It's interesting because in fact, it's happened 3 times during Cerebellium. And every time it filled me with one man and two women. It filled me with incredible feelings of human happiness. Seeing somebody break down because they are facing the question of life, the question of identity, the question of who we are, what makes us, and also perhaps faced with the sadness of sad aspect of existence, which is that we are fundamentally alone in that box, whatever it is. However close we may feel from others, that can only happen for short moments, and it's completely, it's moving to an incredible point to feel someone facing that question and reacting like a child, bursting into tears. It was wonderful. That definitely the best moment for me.
It was just being part of something, you know, with so many people. It was just so enjoyable. And like Iwan said before, you know, the whole thing becomes almost like an organism with the rhythms of people going around and everything. And that's just so sort of magical to watch, I guess, without sounding too cheesy.
The best thing about Cerebellium both years has been meeting a lot of different people, and especially psychology students, as I'm a music student and psychology interests me a lot. It's been really interesting to get to know these people.
The kind of family unit that you create and what you're doing for people and what you're doing for yourselves. The fact that even though your eyes are closed, you probably see a little bit more clearly, and you take different perspectives, and it's kind of like not everything you see is real, and it's just showing other people that there's other things out there. That's really crazy. And the thing that was the best thing is the connections that you make, that even though you don't know those people, it's like being at like a weird party reunion where like, you know they're your family, but you don't really know who they are. And then you get to know them, and it's a really good night.
But there were moments when everything came together, connected: the music, the reading of the poem, you know, and it's quite moving.
I think sort of meeting all new people, because that was actually really fun.
The best thing was it was something different from everything else we did through studying Bangor, and it was something crazy.
There were so many good things, and so many sort of beautiful things that happened. Sort of being led back on the stretcher when we went through it was something I was quite scared about, but when it came to it, it was just a fantastic feeling. It was, I can't describe it really. It sounds really strange, but you know, it was really powerful. The stroking with the shadows, yeah, just some really nice, beautiful moments sort of throughout of it, really.
Yeah, the best thing was just coming back and just seeing it evolve, because I was involved in it last year. So just seeing how much bigger it is, and also just hearing the participants' feedback, and just knowing how much they liked it and everything. So that was really good.
The best thing is probably like hanging around with people that actually was in the Cerebellium rather than the show itself. Like especially like after we all finish, we usually go up to, well, have a chat as well, which got into some deep conversations, and then go up to like the first Doctor's room with like Raph and Sam, and then yeah, amusing stuff happens.
The worst thing was maybe making this room, because like yeah, we're in the dark room and we had to like staple all the string into the walls and stuff, and like climb the ladder to tie it up to the ceiling and stuff. So that was just a lot of hard work, I guess, and yeah, I got sick of it quite quickly. So that to me was kind of the most tiring bit of construction.
one of the other roles I had was to drop people on the stretcher, and it was always fun to do that, and it was great when they kind of shrieked with laughter. But it was surprising how even the biggest and most natural-looking men would squeal as well. That was good. And they were bloody heavy sometimes. That was hard.
I think the only really bad moment for me was, I think it was the Thursday, where we ran on about 2 hours late or so, and it was blisteringly hot as well. And I remember lying on the floor in the tech room for about 15 minutes in between each person as they came through, just wishing it would end.
One of the worst things I think I experienced is there was a few participants who said quite similar things, is that when they came in the room and they were facing the machine and we asked them to switch the brain off, they just say like, oh, it's only theatre, or, you know, I know it's not real, and then they just switch it off and they wouldn't think of what the implications are, and, you know, how it relates to real life. And something else that someone said was, when we asked them after they switched the button off, Annie asked them, how do you feel? And they said, well, I don't feel anything. And okay, I could see how someone would answer that because they probably didn't know what to say, but I mean, no one feels nothing at all. So it was a bit unsettling that, especially after having just turned a brain off, they didn't think, oh, you know, it felt good, or I feel guilty. They just said, I don't feel anything.
I don't know, there's been really funny moments, there's been good moments. I don't think there's been any bad moments. It was awesome to have like a short-term different family. I'm definitely going to miss it. I definitely missed it the next week when I was like on the Tuesday. I was like, oh, this is crap.
Two people that I didn't make any noise. A lot of the time I could sense they were coming because they would touch the curtains around the corner, and then I know they were coming, or I could hear their breathing. But there was one participant in particular who came and he was walking quite fast, and he actually walked into me, and I think he jumped, but I jumped also because I did not expect him to be there at all. And he already had his hands sort of past my head, so I had to grab his arms. And that was completely unexpected. That was pretty scary.
When I was in the first room, like somebody had just been brought in, and obviously the other person comes out of the other door who's already been through. And I went over to the person who's been through it all to go and say, do you want to come and sit down? The guy on the chair who's only just come in heard me, got up and started walking towards me with his blindfold on. Just like, oh my god!
It was always scary, in a way, just to keep, acting and you have to perform this thing where you're preparing them for what's to come. So, making sure that individual goes out prepared in their own way.
There was plenty of times where I would miss people and where the rhythms would go off, and I'd have to sort of catch them in a hallway and have to do sort of an impromptu argument with Cat, Dr. Bone, outside, which was fun but scary at times because you just didn't know what was going to come out your mouth. I thought I was going to get punched once or twice when I normally, as a man, grabbed their hands to dry them. I did think they were going to recoil back and push me away, but it didn't happen in the end, so it was okay.
The funniest thing was like when I was seeing the persons, and some of them, they were looking in the mirror and they were so funny looking themselves, like their reactions.
There was one person who was crawling in the labyrinth, so when it was kind of unexpected for me because normally by then they're standing. So when I had to catch them, I could feel they were coming, and I wasn't quite sure where they were coming from, so it was a bit strange. And they were holding my ankles, so then I kind of had to get them to understand that they could stand up, but they were sort of resisting as well. They probably thought there was a ceiling above their heads. So I had to lift them up and
That was quite strange. I'd knock onto the door and see if the doctor was ready. And the first thing the doctor would say when the participant came in the room was, "You are a little late." And what I found was really quite funny is that pretty much every single person would say, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I apologise, I didn't realise I was late," or something like that. And I thought it was hilarious every single time, because they weren't late, that was part of our script, and they completely went into the role and apologised for it, and that just shows how humans are, you know, naturally willing to apologise if you say, "Oh, you did this wrong." But it was just a funny experience for us. And even there was once where I actually had to make a participant wait outside because there was already someone in the room. And even though they were stood in front of the door for 5 minutes, Ali still said, "Oh, you're a little late, but that's fine. We'll still start." And they still said sorry for being late, even though they were the one waiting. It didn't make sense, but it was just so funny that it worked, and they completely followed the script like that.
When it came to the performers going through, I won't mention names, but they know who they are. Somebody got a little bit lost, and I came to bring the next person through, and I couldn't figure out why they couldn't get through, and then I realised that someone was sat just inside the tunnel, so I had to shimmy through and give them a hand.
Actually, the funniest moment would actually be when one of my lecturers came in, saw me, smirked, started giggling uncontrollably throughout the time I was talking to her, then left and started cackling outside. That would definitely be the funniest moment.
One of the funniest moments was when I was leading people down the corridor, and it was like the first couple of people, so Iwan was there to sort of read the poem to them, and he ended up, like, the line is "eating maize and chicken, staring out of the window forever," but Iwan actually said "eating maize and children, staring out of the window forever." And it was so hard trying to keep a straight face, seriously. And then I think he also, there was something else, like someone said the chickens were looking out of the window forever or something as well. So that was a bit strange. Slightly amusing though, to be fair.
One night I was playing and I was waiting for the next person to come through, as there were often gaps between people, and I had a snack with me and I started eating it, and it was a chicken and sweet corn sandwich. And as I started eating this and kind of stared blankly into the mirror watching myself eat, somebody started reading one of the poems on the wall, and I believe the line is "Passengers on the bus stare out of the window eating chicken and maize for eternity." And that I suppose actually was kind of scary, as I immediately thought that I may be there forever.
I think the strangest reaction I had was when I was doing the ethics committee, and I said to this one particular gentleman, "Will you pay really close attention and, you know, what you say and tell me what you say?" And he turned around and went, "No, because you're from the ethics committee," and stormed off, which took me aback a little bit. I wasn't quite expecting that.
Strange reaction where people sort of, some of the people sort of started asking really probing and searching questions. So I had to sort of really gently deflect them with things like, "That's a brilliant question. You may as well ask Doctor, or you may as well ask the other people here. You may as well ask someone else, because I don't have time to see you." And just, yeah, I think some of the funniest or strange reactions were the sort of really searching questions, such as, "What would you do if you were Kevin?" Or, "How do you know that Kevin knows he's alive?" That kind of thing, which was, yeah, interesting. I had to sort of think on the spot for a little bit as well.
There was probably a couple when Dr. Conrad was getting them to crawl on the floor. That was obviously really unexpected for a lot of people. They didn't know what the connection was. So there was a couple of people who were kind of really resistant to that. And then there was one person who was just like, "Yeah, going for it." And there was a real mixture of reactions to that.
It was like the strangest, moment in the Slanted room though.
Yeah.
Right? What's the strangest reaction you got?
Can't remember actually. Lots of people swore. I think Do you remember? Everybody was talking about this guy who sort of came through, like at first saying he would just switch it off like altogether, and then he sort of got a bit sort of worse towards the end.
Someone started crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one who I got. Who was like, when I had the audience effect on it, and it sometimes started booing. He was like, "Well, I'm not surprised. You're a terrible magician." I was like, "Oh no, you didn't." So yeah, when I put him in the box, he started screaming.
Oh no!
So,
Surprise. Yeah, he gave the best reaction. I would like to say it, but he swore a fair bit, so I feel bad about swearing. So.
It was, I think, the very last person, and I think he was quite... I think people remember him, because he was really arrogant, apparently, in the beginning, and I heard him basically just insult Mike the magician. But when he went to the labyrinth, I think that all changed. Because he was really scared, of course. And by the time he got to me, he was like, when I hugged him, he seemed like he really, really needed that hug. And as I gave him extra long.
There was one person who, when she came through, bounded out of the box. Which I wasn't expecting. She was the only person to do it. She was just so happy to disappear, I guess. There's one person who he was determined that that magic wasn't real, and he was determined that someone was going to get him out of the box. So it didn't matter how I tried to encourage him out of the box of his own accord. Eventually we had to sort of just open the door, and he still wasn't coming out. So we had to sort of basically get him out of the box, because in his mind, I think he just decided that that was the only way to get out of the box.
People do genuinely come out thinking that they've killed someone, and that's strange because they must know on some level that we'd never make them do that, and like it's not really killing someone, but they do come out with that.
Some people are crying, but it wasn't that kind of overt emotion at the end, which usually happens, and I think it's because they were like thinking about the whole issue.
We were a bit deprived this year, weren't we? I mean, you know, no naked girls jumping in my car. How disappointing. And no mobile phones ringing me on their own. No spiritual, no call from spirits this time. Perhaps these things have happened without our knowledge. I don't know.
All the time. It's like having several parallel universes going on at the same time. You've got this front going on, and you've got all your thoughts behind, and then all the sort of you've got kind of rapport going on with Raf. I was working with Raf, and memories of last year. You know, people coming through again. You kind of had, you know, a flash of the memory that they'd been through it last year. And the questions are so weird that it's all a head, star, 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 star.
A good effect as a coincidence. So when we had this machine was turned on and it was ticking, tick, 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 tick. That's one of the things I do when I come in. I sort of switch the machines and everything, and I turn this one on. And then there's a few occasions when the participant was asked to turn the brain off, so turning the switch there, and when they pressed the button, at the same time the ticking would stop. So then we'd end up in total silence in the room, and the three of us would just be standing there, sort of almost looking at the participant with a judging look. And I thought that was a great effect, even though it wasn't really done on purpose. And it was always scary for us as well to think, wow, this has worked, but we didn't really intend it to work like that.
There were moments where there would just be a moment of silence, or you'd reach a crescendo point and the weather would literally intervene. So, you know, everything would fall silent, and then all of a sudden you would get a pour of rain down on the tent, or Dan would get to a real crescendo point that he was talking, and the wind would just drop, and it would just go deathly silent, and it was really amazing how that worked. It was almost as if it had been scripted.
You just think, wow,
Yeah.
this must, the people going through it must think that it was done on purpose.
Yeah. Well, I thought that with the weather, I thought, did they think that this has been carefully arranged to go at that moment?
Like
and
2
it's just
minutes.
pure coincidence.
Before the wind goes.
Yeah. But
They might have thought it was recorded as well.
yeah. Well, I think sometimes people did.
There was one really, really weird moment when it was all finished and we finally had our meal at the terrace after everyone was late and everything got delayed, and we had such a really great time. And then Kevin and I went to the terrace, the actual terrace, outside of the balcony, and I just had 2 minutes of manic laugh. And it was insane. I needed that.
So there was once where there was one boy who came through and who was who started to feel emotional after having, I don't think he turned the bottom off, he completely refused, but he started being, emotional, and he took this really seriously. And then he went to Tagia's room and then he came back out. And there was another boy who came through. And when he was asked to turn the button off, actually the boy who had come out from Guillaume's room was his friend. And they looked at each other and sort of laughed. And then the boy who just come out of Guillaume's room became a little bit serious because he saw his friend just switch the button off without any remorse whatsoever. And that was actually quite funny that even though that was something we were trying to avoid, that, two people being in the same room at the same time, actually in that sense I think it just enhanced the experience because the other person was so shocked at his friend, sort of like, how can you do this? You don't have a soul. And it was just sort of, I was just standing there thinking, this is even better, because it's probably making him feel guilty afterwards that his friend's judging him, or if it isn't, then it's making the other friend think, I don't want to be friends with him anymore. It just makes it really funny. Well, one of the most relevant personal experiences in fact is when I went through Cerebellium myself last year, because I remember going in not knowing what was going to happen. I didn't even know what this really involved, and I was quite apprehensive at knowing what was coming next in each step of the experience. But then when I came out, I remember I just felt I was sort of questioning everything I could see on my way back home. Sort of, does that building really exist? Am I walking? Can I feel myself walking? I was kind of becoming aware of everything that was around me, and that was, I think it was probably the first time I was questioning things like that so much, because I was literally thinking about everything I could see, everything I could hear, or everything, and myself as well. I was sort of, wow, was that real? And so when I could see other people going through, I was sort of feeling with them. Not so much feeling for them as well, but I would say feeling with them, because I was also experiencing things at the same time as them. And it was bringing me back to when I was going through Cerebellium and I experienced a similar thing.
Turning off the brain and being forced to. I mean, you had to get in the mindset at first because you know exactly what's happened and what everyone's done, but actually being a part of that and being able to experience it yourself was a pretty powerful experience. Because even though I knew Karen was the brain, I know you, Kevin, it was still I was still encapsulated by it. I mean, I still had a feeling of regret about turning him off.
I suddenly felt very sick, even though I knew that it was me, I knew that it was my brain, and I knew that my actual brain was actually in the room next door. In terms of the story, I felt physically sick in here, because to me this brain had suddenly become a different person. It could have been anyone. It could have been someone I knew, or a friend, or a family member, and I just felt instantly sick. So at that point, perhaps I no longer existed in some way. In my own mind, I no longer existed because this different person existed before me.
I didn't turn Kevin off. And like, if I did do last year one, I would have said, like, told him.
I was adamant I wasn't going to switch off Kevin, and you know it's theatre. You've signed the forms. You're a performer. You're very aware that this is theatre, and yet when you have to switch it off, it's amazing how a couple of people in white suits can wear you down. I was just so surprised that within sort of a couple of minutes that I'd sort of switched it off, and it was quite upsetting.
When I actually went through myself and it felt like I was in a coffin when I was being carried into the next room. That was quite scary.
I loved the labyrinth as well. I really wanted to just like travel around here in the dark. And there was parts where I was like, oh god, where am I? Am I actually ever going to get out of this? It seemed like it went on forever. I guess that's where the time dilation comes from. Because I felt that a lot during the performance. Like, it seemed that it's going on longer than it should, yet at the same time it's going faster than I expected. But then again, I guess I could blame it on the amount of energy drinks I kept behind the curtain here.
And it was pretty scary, but at the same time, it felt a little bit good, I must admit, to realise that just by saying, oh no, you must do this, people would turn it off, sorry. But sometimes also because I warned them of the consequences, I would stand there and say, oh careful, you know, once the machine's switched off, the level of oxygen will decrease and then that's it. That's what I basically told them. And sometimes when I said that, that changed the person's perspective, and straight away they said, oh no, there's no way I can turn the button off. And so both ways was sort of gratifying in realising that what I said was powerful, but obviously I kind of preferred it when they didn't turn the button off, and just that one sentence made the difference, when before they would have just gone for it, maybe.
It was the Zimzado experiment with the prison study. It sort of shows you how you can sort of become your role. That's what I felt evil towards the end of the week, because I was just, you know, in my role, telling people to press the button and like just giving them evils and just not responding to them as they were talking to me. And I just felt slightly evil and a bit bad, so I had to go do something good to sort of like resolve it. So it does show you, because like how Zimzado became part of his role, people couldn't like withdraw from the experiment, and I felt like he did from it. As I agree.
It's kind of like a out of body kind of experience, because you know that you're really their friend, and you're with them, and you've done it with them before, but that was weird for me, because it's kind of just like a different person, even though you know it's the same person.
It's made me think about, I guess, just, you know, just how we see reality, and sort of also ethical issues, I guess. Yeah, just the way that we see reality, and just maybe also how fallible we are as humans. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, compared to last year, I think that I got more involved in my character. And it was a bit weird sort of feeling, I don't know, like, yeah, you really sort of were, you know, feeling quite strong for the argument you were putting across to these people. And again, when I was having to improv arguments with Cap outside and just sort of really getting into it and just thinking, oh my god, I didn't realise I felt like this kind of thing.
Reality theatre, the line was a bit blurry. It's hard to kind of let yourself go into it totally, but then also try and be objective around it. It was really, I found it really quite intense and quite deep and really quite kind of spiritual, but more that it really surprised me how much it had affected me, and it stuck with me for a couple of days. Yeah, I was really quite upset, but not in a bad way. It was a fantastic experience and I loved it, but just in what was going on with me, and the thoughts it provoked and stimulated, I think, really, which kind of really then made me think. The effect that made me hit home of the effect that maybe we'd had on other people, and you just don't know.
It made me think of the possibility that I'm a brain in a vat. But meh. So what if it is?
It just reminds me that not everything's black and white. And sometimes you can see more when you're not looking. Kind of.
I felt really more positive during the performances of the show and afterwards, really. Like, I can't actually put into words. That's the most annoying part about it. But I feel like I did experience something that has made a lasting effect on me. So, yeah.
I suppose Cerebellium for me was... It came in a really, really difficult time, and I wasn't really expecting much out of anyone. I was very depressed at the time, and I was introduced to this bizarre family of people who are completely unrelated to each other, and still we somehow managed to make this completely safe environment where all these bizarre things happen. And it was just great. It was fantastic.
I think being the central character, it doesn't make anything more or less important or set me apart from anyone else in a way, but it does make me kind of think of it a little bit more differently, maybe a little bit more fiercely. Because whenever you hear your name anywhere, in any context, you relate things to yourself, obviously, and being the centre of the story with this name, Kevin, being thrown around everywhere by everyone, it made me think a lot about what I really am, and I don't know if it made me think about what I am more than it made other people think about what they are, but it certainly had an effect on me, with all these people talking about me and deciding what to do with me.
No.
I lost my rabbit, I lost Frederick, and I was like, yeah, you're going to see the disappearing rabbit trick, where is he? So I spent about like a minute or so saying, oh yeah, this doesn't happen all the time, he's already disappeared, that's the magic for you.
There was one night where, for whatever reason, I'd only just sort of put someone through the tunnel, and there was already someone with Mike in the magician's booth, and he thought the rabbit would have disappeared and opened the box, and the rabbit was still sat there. But they had a good giggle about it, and I think the person just thought it was part of the act.
Anyway, there was one time where it was quite a gap, and he knew that there would be someone soon, and I outburst danced like this, and did something, and then I bent down to do something, and I kicked the barricade right off, and then you heard the door slam for someone to come up, and me and Will were like, okay, just absolutely, that was funny, because we had to get straight back into character, it was just too funny.
At one point during the performance, the binman was just outside, so whilst I was doing the hand illusion to the participant, I was like, oh yeah, so let's hear about what the audience feels. So exactly at the same time I played the audience cheer and everything, you could hear just glass just smashing outside. It's like, oh, the audience is smashing glass again, I guess, what can I say about that?
Problems? Okay, well, timing, apart from that, because I worked in the kind of, what's it called, like the behind the scenes room, so I was doing the lighting one night, and I think progressively as the play went on, the lighting, there just seemed to be something wrong, maybe the bulbs were getting dimmer or something, but the participants could basically see Kevin immediately when they weren't supposed to. They were just supposed to think that it was a mirror and just see their own reflection. So it was quite bad, because I had already realized the night before that a lot of participants were just like, oh, like, what is this? This is a joke, like, I can see the person kind of thing, and they were just like staring at you. So I felt that was a bit of a failure.
I didn't even realise it changed accent. I'm pretty sure towards the end of it, I had a pretty okay accent. It's just like, okay, it's a fake Frenchman. But then I think when it first started off, I was speaking Russian, and then it was like a really bad German, and it's like, I don't know who I am.
Nobody knows anymore.
Nobody knows the great Alonso.
No. We had a few issues with our magician's box. It had been very beautifully built. It was a wonderful box. But the back material sometimes didn't slide as easily as it could. So there was once or twice where the bunny didn't quite disappear where it should have done. And also, towards the end it was getting a little bit tired out the books, and the back kept falling out.
I ended up like headbutting the camera crew's like cameras the whole time because like because it opened the door. It's like, oh. The actual keyboard that broke on Thursday, so we had to replace the keyboard, which was great. And blaming the old sellotape I plastered over it, that probably would not have helped it at all. But yeah, like a lot of times when I press the space bar, nothing would happen. Like, oh, here's the audience. Silence. It's like, oh, you know, the audience don't want to say anything today, so just let's go with the next trick.
Everything in here went to plan. In the larger scheme of things, no, it really didn't. Guillaume keeps on saying, it's an organism, it'll all work as one. But that didn't really happen down here. It was in the sort of belly of the beast and the bowels of the thing or whatever. It was a bit touch and go at some point. The timing. that was terrible.
Timing.
Sometimes it was very, very good, but when it was bad, it was horrid.
Once or twice with the timing, it was like really difficult.
It was like a little traffic jam almost in the corridor. Yeah, but it was all part of the fun. It meant that people were thinking on their feet and having to be kind of spontaneous. It allowed for improvisation. Definitely, yeah.
I guess as a whole organism, it doesn't feel like the timing was quite right. Because I sent people in and found out that there's like, I don't know, massive backlogs of like 8 people. I was like, okay. But I guess it's not my fault really, I don't think.
Because I was working with Will, who was also in the bathroom, and then they come back out to me. Timing is everything in that. And when I had like 2 or 3 people, or 2 people, and I'm like, oh my god, you're bringing on more people. That kind of sucks.
Timing-wise, there were a few issues, I guess, also because I was bringing them from different rooms. So, I mean, yeah, there were some people who were stuck in the doctor's office, or some people who were stuck staring at at Kevin for a really long time. But, I mean, generally, there was nothing too bad that I remember, so we kind of just got over it, I guess. And I think it got better as the days got on, so yeah.
I would have liked it to be more careful, more regular, more better timed. But on the other hand, I'm thinking perhaps this has had advantages actually, because you see, if people come if they are slower on the first act, then what they are doing is they are creating a breathing in the whole of Cerebellium, and in some cases, you know, participants were coming in too fast for me to do my act, and I felt frustrated then. But if they were slower than 5 minutes, it meant that we had a bit of time all down the line.
Oh my god, the best timing, talking of equipment, was when the very last person ever to go through this room in Cerebellium 2 walked out the door. Raph and I looked at each other, and this was covered in white sheets, and a big corner of it just flopped down. It was perfect timing. As ever, everything about Cerebellium was perfect timing, because it's in perfect synchrony with the universe.
At the beginning, I split this mother and son up by accident, and I left a few people in between, and the mother went last between the pair, and she was really panicked because, oh my gosh, she did run after my son now. There's been like 3 people in between me and my son, and then I felt a bit bad, but at the same time so funny because it's so rushed. And in the end I found out that the son was actually reading the poetry to her mother, which, like, of course would have been really touching and whatnot, so that was a nice decision. I think it was hopefully worth her panic.
Timing was perfect.
I actually think that I may have screwed up on at least 1 or 2 nights, and there was the backlog was almost certainly down to me and Sam, because we have to. Yeah, it's quite hard to sort of fit that thing to 5 minutes and keep it sort of curtain short. So that's the worst part of Cerebellium, feeling really guilty about sending people up either late or early or sort of just about on time.
There was one machine with numbers, and I loved it because it would just change numbers, and I'd just write the numbers down. So it just kind of makes it like intriguing.
Sometimes it worked because when I put them in the box, I was like, "Can you hear the music?" No. Great, but I could hear, and that's all that mattered, obviously. But
when like I turned the light off, the person left, light it back on, read the script again. Did I get it wrong right?
Yes, it was what that massive bang was, because I kicked the barricade by accident. All the way down the stairs, it hit every single step, and I think everyone throughout the whole of Cerebellium heard it. And then the door went for the next person to come up, and Sam brought it up and was like, "Oh, Dr. Bone, what is this on the floor?" Me and Will was still stood like right there, and he hadn't gone into the bathroom yet, and it was funny. It's funny to keep those moments because you have to go straight back into character, and yeah, they're the best moments. The moments all in between the stuff. Yeah, that was the massive bang. Sorry, apologies, Guillaume, if you didn't know that story and I broke it. Awkward. Yeah.
When I was playing my role as the assistant in the lab, I kept notes with Yasmin of, first of all, of whether the participants switched the button off, or whether they just refused to, whether they felt any remorse or not, because we always asked them how they felt afterwards, and you could sort of sense whether they regretted their act. And what we found is overall that 2/3 of the people actually did press the button. I think a lot of them did feel quite pressured to do so, so it makes sense that more people did actually press the button rather than didn't. But overall there was still probably 3/4 of the people who did feel some remorse. So they're not completely inhumane, I guess. But it shows that there's quite a bit of a difference between what people do and what people think they should do. And actually, for example, there was someone who said, when we were trying to convince them to press the button, said, "I don't feel I should." Actually, there's quite a few people who said that. "I don't feel I should. I'm not supposed to be doing this." And some people showed some interest in Kevin before actually answering our request of pressing the button. So they said, "Can I say hello to him?" Or after having switched him off, they asked us whether it's possible to switch him back on. So obviously that sort of demonstrates that they regretted what they'd just done and they wished they could just go back. And some of them looked quite upset when we said that no, there was no way back. There's quite an interesting comment as well that we had, is someone said, "I will do it so that someone else doesn't have to." I thought that was quite interesting when that person said that to us. 'Cause it's sort of saying that they are doing a chore so that someone else doesn't have to do it, but then doesn't sort of justify the act completely either. Maybe it's because they know it's not easy, but they're willing, they think it's the right decision, I don't know. Ali, Yasmin and I sort of felt really angry and frustrated when someone actually pressed the button, even though it was a strange feeling because we'd managed to convince them, so it felt sort of, I don't know, evilly satisfying that we'd managed to convince them, but at the same time, it was sort of a horrible feeling if they didn't seem to feel any remorse, because you'd think, oh my gosh. There were some people who said that, who were believing that the fact of being in a vat is not a life, and that you need to be in a body in order to be alive, sort of thing. And someone was very touching, and said the best thing for him is to switch him off, and I have seen worse deaths. And that sort of puts the whole plot into a more of a reality situation, because there are horrible deaths in real life, and it's sort of true if you think about it that you'd expect a life to be a bit more fulfilling than just depending on something completely virtual that's made up.
Once I saw how it had been put together, I think it follows on absolutely brilliantly. It has the wonderful advantage that it was a new experience if you'd seen it before. But you didn't have to have seen it before to appreciate it this year, and I think that in itself is fantastic.
I really liked the way the plot went from actually involving the participant more, and I think maybe for next year that could be done even more with maybe, you know, sort of encouraging the participant to interact with Kevin. I don't know in which way, but rather than just witnessing his world, actually being part of his world.
Oh, the story was awesome. The story, I really liked the story. It's kind of like a dramatic show, just to be like, just to have the two sides, and then at the end make someone switch it off, and then be like, it's not really switched off. No, we fooled you.
I just love the fact that the story had sort of continued from the year before. And so people who maybe thought they knew what to expect wouldn't know what to expect. And it just seemed a very natural storyline, a very believable storyline. So when you're setting up this whole world about illusions and about sort of the theatre of everyday life.
I thought it was kind of, and maybe in a way kind of cleverer than it was last year. And I just thought that there were lots of sort of like twists and turns in the story and things, like with the Confederate. And I thought that Dan did like a wonderful, wonderful job downstairs. So that was really amazing. He kind of just set the tone and made the participants kind of understand the background and everything. So I thought that was really, really good. And also kind of, you know, having to decide whether they were going to switch off the switch. And then after that, finding out that Kevin was with Professor Kurtz all along and things. So I thought it was a lot more, like maybe more personal, and that they even got to see Kevin, like the real brain and everything. So I liked that a lot more. And yeah, I just thought that probably it was a lot more, like it touched people more probably than it did last year.
I think it was difficult to make it interesting and complete for people for whom it was the first time coming through, but also for those people who came again, to give them a kind of a sequel that was valid and logically worked. And I think we succeeded more than we could hope for, really. Yeah.
I love the twist at the end where you thought you just killed Kevin, and you found that you hadn't. I kind of wish that I hadn't been a part of it this year, just so I could experience that moment without knowing it was going to happen, kind of thing. But even knowing it was going to happen, it was still quite powerful turning him off. I loved that bit. That was definitely my favourite bit.
It involves arguments that could exist in reality, so there could actually be the ethics board that really want to shut it down eventually, and I like it.
It was just as good this year as it was last year, and just as good last year as it was this year.
The story was amazing because I wasn't actually involved last year, so I had to I was brought up to speed, and I thought that was good. But this year, where we actually got people to sort of go upstairs and actually turn Kevin off, that was amazing. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. I think that they've sort of done a really good job with that story.
What was the story?
I've enjoyed every minute of it. It was great to work with you guys.
For me, it was almost as if the world became enthroned in that bubble, and the rest of the world was unreality, and that bubble was, that dome was my reality.
Just a big thank you, really, for the fact that it happened and I was able to be involved. And I met some really great people, and Yeah, really. So I'm just grateful I was allowed to be involved, or able to be involved, and I hope I can be involved again. I hope it happens again, or there is a part 3, and I hope I can be involved. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
I do love everyone. Everyone's awesome. Everyone in this has been awesome.
A thank you, I guess, to everyone. It was a pleasure to work with everyone and to be involved in this with everyone. And as always, thanks to Guillaume and Iwan for their inspiration and for bringing this all together really and making it so enjoyable and such an easy experience really for everyone.
You feel like you're going through so many different steps that it can't just be in a time space.
No, I felt that when I went through last year. I mean, that's why I was so determined to be in it this year, because I loved it last year.
And you never know when it's going to end as well.
When I came to look around it this year, and it just can't be.
I know.
You know, those few rooms.
I expected it to be straightforward theatre. I didn't expect it to be as touching, as random, as unnerving, I suppose. And not only for the participants, it was also for us who ran the whole thing. A lot of unforgettable experiences. I don't really know how to say this without sounding all kitsch. People, I love you.
Well, I think that's one of the beauties of it, that it is such an individual thing.
It is.
You know,
really is.
Everybody has a completely unique experience.
And some people say things, you know, some people would say more. People don't really express themselves, they'll just be quiet and like that.
Yeah.
But you can't tell what's happening in people's heads, but a lot of the time you can see from their reactions what they're kind of feeling.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's like, ooh.
Anything else? I love you all and I quite enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to do it again.
It is like a family. Yeah, it was really good. Outpouring of love to every single one of you. You are all awesome.
As I said before, Cerebellium is like a bubble, a universe within a universe. And I think it's a better universe, and it's one that we should keep trying to take outside with us and take to other people.
Thank you very much. Okay. Off the top of my head, that's, yeah, all I really want to say. Alright. Okay. Good. This is really surreal now, because it's still staring at me. Yeah. Ah, that was it. Possibly the worst point about Cerebellium was leaning back on this chair, because this chair, as you see, and the shelves behind me are actually more or less a head height. So I think the worst point was leaning back, banging my head here, coming forward in one fluid motion, and then having to address the person that had just come in and seen me recline and bang my head quite hard on the shelves behind me. I think that must have been probably the most embarrassing moment, if not the worst one. So I was feeling a little bit kind of, yeah, disorientated and very, very embarrassed. Other than that, actually, I think that's more or less it. That's, yeah. I think I'm done. I think that's... You can stop that. If you want to, it's up to you, but yeah. I think that I'm pretty sure we've covered everything now. Yeah. Okay. Oh dear. if this can turn into some sort of Mexican standoff where it's me versus the camera, it's like staring at a wall. I know who's going to blink first, because it's versus a completely unblinking eye. You're going to lose, really. Yeah, I'll be honest. Or actually, no. Possibly one of the worst moments is when you basically attacked me with your camera. You basically asked me to stand there very quickly and just kept on taking photos. And after I walked off, you kept on taking photos. And sort of once I sat down, you came up. It's like a photo shoot, but kind of in a really perverse and almost stalkerish way. Because, yeah, he was following me around taking photos with this camera with the giant lens. That's what Kevin over here was doing. Although that's not strictly in Cerebellium, that was right at, I think, 12:30 in the morning, when I was very ready to go home and enjoying, I think, some fruit, or I was either eating or I was getting my stuff together. And then it was, yeah, Kevin with his camera that was following me around whilst I picked up everything from my lab. Now that was interesting, to say the least. I don't think I'm going to forget that in a hurry. Yeah, that was pretty strange. I think it's more or less everything now. That's all, absolutely everything I think of. Yeah. Okay.
You sure there's nothing else?
Yeah, I'm fairly sure, yeah, because I've covered the sort of the horrific moment. Oh, there is I think there's a homunculus, or that's a term for small pickled babies. There is can you see the monkey behind me? There is a baby monkey in a jar of what we think is formaldehyde sitting on my desk. Or, no, sitting on the shelves behind the desk. Interestingly, I think almost no one noticed, apart from this one poor man who was kind of looking at me, looking around, had sort of a show of slight concern in his face, and his eyes were darting kind of to things in jars behind me. I suppose, yeah, that must have been strange, because actually we were sort of asking, is the monkey going to be okay? Are people of a nervous disposition going to freak out when they see the monkey and the squid, and I think there's a baby kangaroo as well, like a little Joey in a jar behind me. And we were sort of originally wondering if people were going to freak out about those, but no, it seems like everyone bar one person either didn't notice and didn't sort of mention, or just sort of accepted it as part and parcel, really, I suppose. And yes, to answer the question that's just about to be forthcoming, I think that is absolutely everything. I can, yeah, looking around the room and thinking back, I can think of literally, or I can think of absolutely nothing else. I'll be honest. Good. Okay. Wow.
So they read a poem at the end about kindness, and they just switched off a brain, but they knew it was a plastic brain, they knew the whole thing was fictional, but they still felt empathy. And then we explained to them that how different is that to your own brain, which is just an object, a very special and complex object, that has created the impression of a subject. So it's like there were all these human emotions happening at the same time as this questioning about what the self is.
I don't know. And that's better like this, because I don't want anyone else to have this recipe for a miracle. I think Cerebellium is simply a magic experience. Even an incarnation of an actor, of a character that is very, very good, cannot be as strong as the direct reaching of the person that is tailored for them, that is reactive to them. And the other thing about Cerebellium, which is very important, is that people lose the sense of time. Also, they've lost the care for time. They don't worry about it. But the magic doesn't stop here. It's not just that. It's not just the two of us coming together and being able to work like this without any without any difficulty, as if we just guessed each other's work and ideas. It's all these students that have joined us, all these students that have accepted to embark on the adventure with us. It's almost like someone's written it and planned it very carefully. And of course, at the beginning, it's a bit clunky for the first few visitors, but after about 5 or 6, it's like these things have always been in place. They've always run that way. Iwan is a genius. He just knows when he sees people within 5 minutes what they can do or where they're going to fit in the structure. And then it blends and it starts working. And the minute you turn off the lights and say 5 minutes before the first participant comes in, this thing starts to breathe, and it just works. It's magic.
And talking to people afterwards, they really got involved. And so some people that turned him off for a few weeks afterwards were feeling quite upset. I don't know if that was the desired effect, but it definitely worked.
So, some of them were really strange though, like when we were reading them out in the corridor, like some of them have like one word on. I can't even remember some of them. But...
Yeah, some are like really crazy images.
Oh my god, yeah, they were really creepy.
Yeah, some people are like, wow. Are you sure it's just been tea? It's like, it was really, yeah, but then there's lots of poses, wasn't there? Lots of poses that people wrote down.
And then people saying, I knew it was a meerkat.
I swear there was a picture of a crazy cat. I don't understand what would possess someone to draw a crazy cat after, like, the first thing they think of sitting down in a room after all this. Just crazy cat.
Yeah, some of the comments and some of the feedback was so personal maybe, or so kind of considered. They were lovely, and they're only the ones that people actually made the effort to write something. I wonder how many people maybe went away and hadn't been able to express what they were feeling and thinking. I mean, I'm a bit of a slower processor, so I probably wouldn't have had anything instantly that I would have been able to have expressed. It might have been a couple of days later. So, but I think we probably touched a lot of lives and made them, just change your perspective slightly, what you're thinking. Yeah, it was good.
I think it worked better than last year, actually.
I think it was better than last year. Because we pushed the psychological concepts and the contents much further. We were much more into the spirit and the ideas and the emotion and the way of thinking of Kevin.
People tend to Google a lot when I don't know, because we're right next to the magician, and sort of Marty and I are trying to sort of calm them down, and you're doing such a brilliant job, but it's sort of, Martin's going on with I bring my memories from the light and lead them to the darkness. Abracadabra, Alakadabra! Someone actually asked, was that the mantra?
The water made me need
You sort of notice after a while how easy it is to just silence people with nonsense, like they'll ask questions and then you can just say, please proceed.
And
they'll
they
just
still
accept
press
it.
the button.
They'll just accept it and they'll just go along with it. One of the girls said, what are you going to do with that brain? I just smiled at her and she was like, oh, don't tell me. Well handled.
Guillaume was doing, yeah, me with these people.
It was nice to see everyone's sort of varied reactions. Some
Yeah,
people,
there
no
were very
remorse.
different reactions.
Other people, like, about to cry, like,
And it's quite interesting to know the woman who cried actually didn't have any reaction, and we were like, no, she doesn't feel any remorse.
One guy almost shouted at me, he like brought his hand over, was like, I'm not ready yet.
I really did judge the people who didn't show remorse. Like, I actually felt angry at them. I didn't like read them in as nicely as I would the other people.
Now get your plateau skate!
Yeah.
It was really good, but
like May said, some people were less receptive than others. But I felt like I did end up making like a weird sort of connection, like when we did the holding hands thing. And it was really good with some people.
Did you tickle them? Did anybody go?
Yeah. I was doing things like I was moving my hand, and at one point they were like, some people were literally flinching as if I'd gone like that.
I like it that they smile when the light is changing.
Oh, you can see.
Yeah, you can see them.
Amazing experience. Am I real? Am I Kevin? Still feel real, I'm afraid. And maybe ignorance is bliss. Move Kevin's life enjoyable as you would want a life. Make Kevin's life enjoyable as you would want a life. Great fun. Okay. An amazing experience, blown my mind. Is it a dream? Am I dreaming? Very cool, great music and smells. A very pleasant dream. Love that at the end you experience the beginning, just in a different way, with open eyes. Would have loved to experience more of this eye-opener to see how vision changes our perception. The first bit's a tad messy, and then the other bit's a bit more easier to read. I'm not sure if that's because of their state of mind. I've always admired my brain, how I empathize with other brains too, especially Kevin. And then the I threw myself into this, trusted my instincts, and enjoyed it. I didn't know what was expected of me, but I went into it with the flow. I didn't press the button. E equals MC squared.
That's good feedback.
Thanks, G, you crazy dude. Dear Kevin, Never Trust Ethics Committee. An absolutely fantastic theater piece, really thought-provoking and amazingly put together. A true experience. Hey guys, you were all fab. Love the connections you made through it, like getting us to read the poems. The coffin bit was amazing.
Coughing.
And I liked how you hoisted things from last year and made them new. It worked really well. Enjoy your week. Very neat.
That
Very
was Joanna, was she?
Yeah.
She was with us last year.
Very bizarre. Made me think about what reality actually is. Whatever we can actually be sure that is what we perceive it to be. Just because we are told something doesn't necessarily mean that it is true.
Somebody remembered Kevin.
Oh, good lord, that's uncanny.
Whoa. Disturbing.
Another drawing.
Wow.
Yes, that's what it is.
That's beautiful.
My God, we pushed them
Reality
into art.
is a flower.
This is really scary.
Spreads its pollen, which grows into new realities as this one does.
Oh, okay. That was somebody did say.
Oh. Kevin is beautiful. Oh, that's my sister.
Kevin is
I recognize that eye.
And then it says, wow, in the middle of it, and it says, I am alive to think, and there is so much beauty. That was amazing, thank you. The experiment felt very real when I was talking with the doctor with the blue orange. I don't know what is real, but I want to be kind and have a great time in the world. That really was amazing. Well done, everyone. Thank you so much.
We don't want to see this.
Tiny smiley face.
Tiny smiley face.
Maybe he's lucky.
maybe he is lucky. He can make it when we can't.
What he wants.
Oh.
He can make it what he wants.
What he wants.
And he could create a wave of war or inequality.
Or war,
I wonder. Really?
Would he create war or inequality, I wonder? Do we see what we want to see? Or is it a construction based on our own socially manipulated reality? I think. I feel like I should read that again. I was lighting an incense. It says, all-seeing eye, what do the eyes really see? I think they wrote rugby scores. Pura vida? Something. Fantastic theatre, enjoy very much. Once again, you have excelled.
There's no feedback.
Yes, do you want to get the feedback?
Go and grab it.
I had a really interesting piece of feedback.
Oh yeah?
Does anyone remember the very last guy that went through? He had a camera around his neck.
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
He did.
Oh, wait, he put it in the cabinet.
Oh, okay.
The very, very, very last guy. There were 3 people left in the dome. And when I gave them the story and asked them what they would have chosen last year, all 3 without hesitation said they'd pull the plug. So I thought, right, I'm going to have fun with you guys then. And then I rounded on them, and as they got picked off one by one, he was the last person left. And I, block by block, destroyed that conception. And at the very end, he genuinely didn't know what to think anymore. He was quite moved, he was a bit shaken by it, but that was the very first stage, so I thought, okay, cool, he's ready for it now. And at the end of each night, just before, when Raph comes down and lets us know that everyone's kind of finished with his bit, I quite like to sit on the sofa and hold one of the magazines in front of my face. So whenever people come downstairs, I usually just like lower the magazine a bit, and then raise an eyebrow and smile at them, and then they leave. And he was down. I did the thing, raised an eyebrow, put the magazine back up. And I didn't hear him go. So then I just lowered it completely, and he was just looking at me. I was like, "Is everything all right?" He went. He held his hand out and went, "I'm a changed man." But there were tears in his eyes, and that was kind of. So that happened. You guys.
Tomorrow's gonna be fun.
How about you?
I just shook his hand.
Your Hello magazine.
So we'll organize a room for the criers tomorrow.
We're
for the laughers.
We need group photos as well.
Yeah,
we need a group photo.
Every one of you, every contribution is fundamental to this. So, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for them as well.
Well, just from a kind of conventional directing point of view, I just thank you all of you. It's so easy to work with, perfect in what you're doing, all of you. I never felt I had to kind of, put it aside and say,
get out.
everything was easy. Thank you very much. Well, I can't speak professional. Professionals are usually how they work. Thank you very much. You're all brilliant. Excellent. We made it work.
Thank you.
I would like to do it again, next year. Yeah, it was really good this year. I really enjoyed it. I would want to see what it was like last year, but it was good this year.
Yeah, I'll definitely be doing it next year. It kind of sucks. I don't know how I feel about it next year because I kind of maybe miss everyone from this year. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will. Who knows? But I'll definitely be here next year. Yay! It was awesome. Thanks, guys.
Well, I don't know if I'll be around next year, but I'll definitely come along to it. I'll definitely go through it, which will be a weird experience, not being part of it. Because I think both years I kind of wish that I'd been a bit naive to it and not known what was going to happen so much. Because as powerful as it is when you do know what's coming. So without that, I can't imagine what it would be like.
Yeah, it's had quite a big impact on sort of the direction that I've taken, really. So yeah, unexpected, but very positive. But still learning and developing from it all the time, really. So any chance to come and get back into it again. Iwan's a genius at this stuff. Coupled with Guillaume, they're a bit of a dream team, so yeah, who wouldn't want to be part of that?
If they'll have me, I'll happily join next year, because it was sort of, I had lots of fun this year and it was absolutely amazing. And I'd love to see what they do next, because I don't really know how they can top this. I think there was a thing about we're just going to slap people. We're going to have a white room and slap people with chamomile scented fish next year. I think that's apparently what they're sort of might be considering. So yeah, if there's a place for me in that, I'd definitely like to come back and do it.
I definitely want to be involved. Number two, I'm going to make sure that I buy tickets for several people in advance because they couldn't get tickets and I'm sorry they missed it. My daughter got to go through this year and she adored it. I'm dead intrigued to see where the story goes, and I think this is something everybody should see. It was the quote my daughter said when she came out. She said, "You guys have got to take this on tour because everybody should see this."
I'm really interested in what role will be taken next year. I mean, it felt like this was the ending of the saga to it, but there'd be so many other routes that could be taken from this. I want to be a part of next year because I enjoyed it so much this year, for that matter.
I think the Doctor might get found out. I don't know. See, I think he might be on the run or something. The brain. And
it would be like a running Cerebellium.
Oh yeah, well I'm not quite sure how they're going to put that into action, but I wonder whether he'd get found out that he's kind of been deceptive and that he was maybe on the run, or he was, I don't know, whether he should get struck off or not. Maybe it's the whole kind of, should he lose his title? Was he doing, what he was doing was good for science or bad for science, or I don't know, I guess there could be that debate. So, but then that kind of takes it away from Kevin a little bit. But I don't know how much longer. I mean, it would be about whether they turn Kevin off. But I guess the fact would then be that Kevin is on still, and it might be more to do with the Doctor's behaviour, maybe.
We have lots of ideas. As to whether I would want to unveil them now, probably not, because first of all, whatever the final idea is going to be, I'd rather keep it kind of a mysterious thing. Because I want people to really enjoy Cerebellium 3, which we see as what is guaranteed is that it's probably going to be the last one of the Cerebellium series. So we are thinking of a trilogy here, and not the trilogy in the sort of traditional ways that they do it at Hollywood. We don't want to screw up on number 3. We want it to be the best. We want a perfect crescendo. 1 was great, 2 was pretty amazing, and 3 must be the ultimate achievement. Something that takes everyone to a very deep level of philosophical contemplation, really. That's what I would like to do. And make them realize that life is a beautiful and fragile thing. I mean, some people will not need very little conversation or exposure to understand that, but I'm interested in the tough nuts, the ones that you don't crack that easily. I would like them to to realize these things that we're talking about as well. And so probably have to ramp up the pressure, but also probably adapt better to our audience and make them all try to get at them and pull out of them essential things.
Guillaume is a professor of bilingualism, and he's like the world expert on what happens in a brain when people speak two different languages. So I wondered, what if Kevin started to refuse to speak English and only speak Welsh, and became a Welsh nationalist? And then we could look at how actually languages create your identity, and languages don't describe reality, they create reality. And to look specifically how language changes the way we see the world. Because languages have different vibrations, oscillations. And now they're thinking the self actually occurs in the brain through a resonance of oscillation in different parts of it, or one scientist called Tom, called Wolf Singer, his name.
I got asked what on earth that was. I think we ended up as a robot or a Dalek's little brother or something. Or something like. So, oh no, somebody thought it was Kevin.
Ah.
Which I was like, what?
There's a real Kevin.
Yeah. The other ones just pretend this is a real Kevin.
This one that truly lights up the room. Ah, wow.
I'm trying to find it really hard to look at which camera to look at. Camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2.
Would you like some naan bread? Because I won't eat it.
They filmed like my little bit in the first room, and all you can see is my thumb.
Oh yeah.
What happened to the replicas?
Oh, I got him with me. He's in that bag.
I was going to say, have you actually kept him, or is he
No,
living in it?
he's still living in my house. He's a bit of a deadbeat though. He's not found a job or anything.
How was it for you?
Life was a Cerebellium.
Cerebellium, actually, but you know, life after. How was
life
it for you?
after is busy. Cerebellium was Cerebellium. I think that our bit outside was particularly mysterious. Because people said, "What's going on out there? What's going on?" And people were like hearing Dan shouting like really loud at the beginning and thinking he's a drunk guy. And it's like, why is that drunk homeless guy out there shouting in the same spot so much every night at the same time?
Yeah, Dan got very passionate. He got very passionate.
Okay, well, we'll just turn all of the machines on that make noise.
What does that one do? What does that one do?
Dehumidifier.
But I started playing like the final countdown when they came in, and some atmospheric music just to get the aura of eeriness in there.
I feel like I'm in a seance.
When he did turn him off, I was like, well, you know, it's not my fault. The rabbit told me to. It's like,
blame it on the rabbit.
He's just like, he's such a bad influence on me.
Okay. Yeah? What?
I want to hug this sign. No, I like how I painted this so white.
And the whole time I just couldn't sort of get out of my head the fact that I wanted to kind of keep looking at him.
Maybe this is the answer to life.
Meerkats.
And just probing the audience around, like, oh dear, what am I getting myself into? But it was really quite fun.
It did make some very strange noises, actually. I was just like when it spins, it goes.
Yeah.
That's my best impression.
Because I remember like a few times during Sign Room, which I could over hair. There was like a few times some people were like, "Well, is a pretty girl like you hanging from a ceiling like this?" Or something like that.
I think that was to Kitty.
Yeah, probably is.
Yeah, because some guy gave me a phone number to give to her. I'm not even kidding. When I was in here, some guy wrote his phone number down and told me to give it to the girl in the slanted room. Yeah, some people are just so chilled in here. It's just like, yeah, I'm not really leaving. And then some people just sort of didn't even want to come in. They just like left straight away. I don't know.
Well,
It's like,
this thing's like, Slytherin's like, nah, not anymore. No more of this. My fear is guiding me.
One night after we finished, I was in the labyrinth with Annabelle and Guillaume. And I think Annabelle had eaten an orange, and for some reason the three of us made a little piece of artwork from it with orange skin, I think some black and white string, and a little piece of black masking tape. And I thought it was kind of like a Picasso, and then I think I stamped on it, and Guillaume then said it was a Duchamp. So many different lives intermingling in different ways, in unexpected ways. Things happening to people and how they react and how they come together, and how Cerebellium itself kind of took on a life of its own and a journey of its own. And within that bubble that we created, there was this kind of freedom for things to happen that wouldn't normally happen. Just very silly, funny, sweet things that just don't happen anywhere else.
As a kid, I liked theatre, and I was in a few plays and everything like that, but never something as involved as this. And it seemed like a really great experience. And it was.
More, please.
it's been so amazing and so wonderful, and I've met all these wonderful people as well.
Kevin, what can I do for you?
Okay. There's something really interesting happening.
What?
The way you oriented the camera a second ago, I could see the reflection of your face in the objective, in the lens.
That's kind of matches up with the fact that I can see your face on my face in the picture, which wasn't deliberate.
So now I can see your face from the picture in the lens.
Yeah. Are you still recording? Oh, I'm just going to sleep then.
I know, a lot of editing involved here. I don't know, what did I think of it? Okay, wait, sorry, could you just pause it?
This is what happens when you put the camera on my face. Pause.
I don't know. It's really bad. Is this going to be an awkward silence again? Oh no!
It's actually just going 2 hours of just the same footage.
I hate talking. Please don't interview me, please. Ever again. Please pause.
That's all I have to say.
Why are you so quiet? Why do you hide behind this mask? I guess I'll leave you to it.
Kevin asked him to lie down on the floor, I suppose, and he did it. And I was like, that's...
Blind.
No, he had a scrunched up face, so he looked wrinkly, so don't do that.
Okay.
No, you're not wrinkly, you're 18 years old.
I know. I really shouldn't be wrinkly if I am. That's It's because I've got expressive eyebrows. I'm going to blame all of my problems on expressive eyebrows. That is basically what I'm going to do. Yeah, except I can do them. Actually, I can do them independently. Ha ha ha. No, just yeah. Oh, okay. So you want me? You said concern face, so kind of like a no. Because I can't be fake concern. I'm sorry. I'm now talking.
That's not asking. Is it fake concern? You said you could. Can you?
No.
Do it now.
What's kind of like a no? That's not. That's a surprised face. That's the difference. Okay. Sort of a no, because
fake garter belt.
No, not the.
Why don't you take the photo anytime soon? Take it now. Garter belt. You actually, I know. You actually think you're garter belts.
Because it was Sam's conversation. The whole thing just revolved around me wearing garters. So the problem is, if you ever say anything to do with garter or belt,
Kevin doesn't know.
Okay, fine. No, Kevin knows now. Kevin knows now.
No, but what happened? Why?
What happened? Why what?
Explain the whole story.
Oh, okay. So, story from the beginning while lying down, curled on the floor.
Yeah.
Fine, okay. So, the story from the beginning is basically... Actually, you know what? I can't remember. I think it's just gone blank, thank God, because I've been mercifully spared most of the garter-based comments.
It was because you insisted to be called Amanda rather than just Jones.
That was it, yes. I insisted that my first name needs to be Amanda, because I was sort of silly, you see. Because the actual brochure itself said Dr. Jones and Amanda. I therefore decided that I would become Amanda Jones.
It's Dr. Evans and Amanda.
Oh God, so it is, yeah, Doctor. I would therefore become Amanda Jones. And it was kind of fine until about, 20 minutes or so? Oh my God, can that camera do film? It was fine until about, let's say, 20 or so minutes after we'd finished. And then it basically became kind of, I think it was Sam who started talking about, how did we get onto garter, out of interest?
Because you was in kind of like expecting me to pose earlier.
Oh God. So are you saying I was, that was it, yes. I was convinced that name sounded a little bit too normal. Amanda Jones just to me sounds suspiciously kind of normal. Which basically, yeah. I think I may have actually made some porn star once and it just kind of got stuck and then wouldn't go away. So, the natural progression from that point was, in fact, basically Sam telling me that I obviously wear garter belts. Which is kind of, yeah, just as you do. It took her like, what, 20? No, all up to that.
Are you wearing garter belt?
No, I'm not wearing a garter belt. It took her about 5 minutes to actually find the word, and the horrible thing is that I suggested it. That is why. Because I actually suggested that, oh, you mean garter? And then she looked at me with the really kind of, how the hell do you know that face? Kind of, oh my God. Like, a mixture of kind of revulsion and...
She's laughing though.
Oh, okay, she was, yeah, revolted and laughing, if that's kind of... any better.
Karina, make our photo pet do something.
He's doing something right now.
Make him do something else.
He's too busy laughing.
Sorry, I'm going. Oh dear, that's actually a really, really scary title. Just kind of photographic pet. That is basically what I've become now. I'm going to be honest. When I started Cerebellium, I didn't really think that I would be sitting in a corner. Actually, ooh.
Not quite in the corner. You have to sit on the filing cabinet to be in the corner.
Yeah, okay. Sitting next to the corner.
Yeah.
Filing cabinet.
I was careful tonight. You were like, what's just happened? Yeah, it was quite funny.
Can you stop now, Kevin? Please.
Stop posing.
Oh, no, the thing is, I'm not posing. So he's basically said, "You sit there." It's kind of.
Pose now.
But how? I don't pose. I've decided that I'm not photogenic, which is fine. But he keeps taking photos.
Because you're a proto pet.
Yes, they basically decided I exist to be photographed now, which is fun. Like a model who's not paid and kind of should go home.
We can feed you.
Like a participant, not paid.
Yes,
Go home.
just like a participant when they're taking photos, not paid and should just leave. Is kind of that's why. Can I go home now, Kevin? Please?
No. Okay. Fine. Aha! Oh, I was going to say right to withdrawal, but it's fine because I'm not a participant. I'm a volunteer, and that's different. It's completely and utterly different.
Participant can be a volunteer.
No, but all participants are. But the thing is, I didn't agree and kind of sign forms, so I'm here of my own volition. Really, yeah. I should just get up and go. I really just kind of. I should just leave. Yeah, out of interest, what time is it? 20 to 1. 20 to 1. I'm leaving, Kevin, and you can't stop me. I'm going home. Finally. I'll see you and your camera later today, because it's in, what, 15 hours or so? Something like that. I did the maths while I was very bored. I'm leaving. Bye.
Good night.
Night-night.
Good luck on your assignment.
Thank you, I'm going to need it.
Because since you are a director, we believe that you need a director to take it. So we've got people to sign it off the back of the back. A little souvenir from Cerebellium.
What's that?
A little souvenir from Cerebellium.
Did Guillaume get one?
We bought him some wine.
That's so sweet. Thank you very much.
A brain cake, did you say?
Yeah, yes, we made a brain cake as well. Did you hear that?
I saw the pictures. I saw the brain cake. They were gruesome.
Yes, and he dissected the brain.
Who did?
Guillaume.
Did he also explain what
yes,
every
he was giving it brain damage.
Fantastic.
It
is a film. It's a film, you see. Does this come off? Because can use it. No, I'm joking. Have you heard of editing, Kevin? You know what that is. We made a film that's like 2 hours long, like the last one. You need to get water.